Welcome to the Pastor's Table. I'm Mark Quanstrom.
And I'm Tara Beth Leach, and we are continuing the conversation with Pastor Greg Wenhold. We left off with quite the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Hey, and I loved our conversation last week so much because I think it gives pastors who feel like their journey's been unconventional, and maybe they're being shamed by denominational leaders or others because their path or story is unconventional. I hope that it reaches that pastor, that they feel that just permission from the Spirit that God writes the stories,
Right.
not denominations.
Yeah, my home pastor, as I was graduating from college and shaking his hand as we would always do every Sunday as we came out of the sanctuary and out into the world. And I said to him, my mom said to me, tell Pastor Schiffer what you're going to do. And I said, I'm going to seminary. And he laughed.
Oh, goodness.
He apologized years later. Like, we still had a good friendship. But that's the dichotomy my life was at that time. Yeah. I probably would have left.
Made perfect sense to you.
Yes, it did.
Why not go to seminary?
Yeah.
Right? Yep. I like to study philosophy. Theology is a sister, right? I like to study.
And they were probably as social as my fraternity days. So just in a different way.
Exactly.
More
right.
refined, but still,
Wow.
I went to seminary to put off going to the ministry. I didn't go to seminary because I thought I needed a graduate degree. I knew if I went to seminary, I didn't have to deal with it for 4 more years.
There you go.
Yeah. So God gets us there in all kinds of different ways, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So.
Yeah. So where we left off was, so you come back to Good Shepherd and you're there and you're co-pastoring, also unconventional. The leaders are telling you're going to blow up the church. You have some hard conversations, even with some Good Shepherd folks, and you get a phone call back from that church.
So the context at Good Shepherd, though, is things are going great.
Yeah.
And moving forward, and lives are deepening. Global ministry is happening, which is something that we experience now, Tara Beth, and it's sweet at that church. But along this journey, I was in the office one day, and one of the administrative team buzzed me on my phone and said, there's somebody on the phone by the name of Judy. And I'm like, she's from Pennsylvania. I'm like, yeah, okay, put her through. And so this individual was basically the comptroller of the church where I lasted 18 months.
All right.
And that church was so large that it had 2 corporations. One was Glory Day Church. The other was Gloria Day Outreach. And they had a series of facilities for individuals to live, retirement age. Some were HUD funded, some were private. And so on a weekly basis, funds would come in from the church offering as well as into Gloria Day Outreach. And this individual was the one who would take that and parse them into bank accounts. So the phone call was, Greg, I'm going to be baptized this week. I'm like, that is so cool. She had come to a faith that was deepening. But my pastor told me if I had any sin against anybody else, I had to call and ask for their forgiveness. So I'm like, dead silence. I'm like, okay, and what would that be? She said we were embezzling funds. So they weren't putting it in their own pockets. They were justifying it by taking our offering on Sunday morning and sending it to the Outreach Corporation. And so, what do you say at a time like that? It's water way downstream.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do with it. But to say to that human being, I am so excited you're being baptized. You have total forgiveness from me. I'm not, in fact, I don't even need that moment with you. Just know I harbor no resentment. But all of a sudden, it's interesting. Like, it's like all the cogs kind of like click together. This is why there was so much pressure at that time. Everyone was trying to do everything to deep six. The interesting thing, though, while I was away, I grew like exponentially. You couldn't, that was like an 18 months crazy leadership. And also then Gary, who was back at Good Shepherd, who I would co-lead with, he grew.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't easy for him back then.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody's going to be wondering, and we just have to answer this. How long did the senior pastor who thought he wanted to leave, retire, who didn't. How long was he there after you left?
So he stayed on, and they allowed him to be there. To me, and I'm not the kind of person who fires stones because I've had enough in my life cast at me.
Right.
But probably the move was the easiest thing for the bishop of that area to do. We'll allow him to be there. We'll calm the waters.
Right. So you left.
I left.
Yeah, but how long did he stay over after he
a couple
left?
Years.
So he stayed another couple years.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And they finally went into an interim moment that didn't work. And the crazy thing is they asked me to come back and preach once, and I did. And
while he was still there?
No.
After
years later. There's another pastoral edge that's there. And the church, the sad part is the church lost some of the desire and focus to be the church.
Right.
And it was a church that loved to play church. A lot of wealthy people.
Yeah.
And it was just it was hard to move on without feeling like you were letting the kingdom down.
Right.
But I really felt deep in my soul that God was saying, that's not your job, Craig. Your job is not to worry about a group of people who bailed on you as a leader. Your job is to follow where I tell you to go.
That's really important.
He sent me back here.
Yeah. And you made reference to being away while you were at that church.
Yep.
So this was your home.
Yeah.
This was your home. You were away when you were back at Philadelphia.
Correct.
Yeah, because that's how you said it.
Yeah, and that's good because I'll tell you that even though Philadelphia is where my roots are, still have some family there, not much, but other than sports teams, Chicago's my home.
Yeah, and we often talk about how Good Shepherd has a stickiness about it.
Yeah, it does.
There's Good Shepherd don't mess around when they do community. It is a real rich, almost New Testament-like community there that even when I went away for a decade, I yearned for that type of community again that I experienced at Good Shepherd. And people say, when they come, when people come, they end up staying because they're so warmly welcomed. And you experience that. I mean, some of your best friends are here.
Correct.
Part of Good Shepherd. I can tell you from my perspective, serving as a staff pastor under your leadership, in the 2010s era, actually, I think I started in 2008, you and Greg really did, or you and Gary, Pastor Gary, really did complement one another well in your gifting. And, no one could ever play like good parent, bad parent, like we always knew you were on the same page. You modeled mutual submission so beautifully. And man, back then, the church was just growing like crazy, growing like crazy. And, and I loved how, because you were you were the one to kind of take the front seat of being the visionary, and and Pastor Gary kind of took the front seat of knowing everybody's name and being that pastor that he had he had a photographic memory that he'd meet a person one time.
Wow.
And he would remember their name.
Mm-hmm. More than that, he'd probably know where you lived, or I always said he knew your shoe size. He knew everything about you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And the church flourished.
Yeah.
I mean,
and looking back, and I want to lean in also to the work you've done and what God put on your heart to write Radiant Church. You make a valid case. Obviously, it's not about numbers.
Right.
But it's about, is the Holy Spirit active? Is it alive? Are people praying? Are they discerning? Are they coming to church for the right reasons?
Right.
And that's, I think, the stickiness you're talking about.
Absolutely. It's we want to be a church that makes disciples who makes disciples. That
Correct.
We often talk about how serious, we're serious about the Great Commission at Good Shepherd Church.
Yeah.
So you give a couple decades there of serving, and I know our listeners don't know this, but you also had a pretty strong tug for Kenya.
Yeah.
At the time, you had. I mean, we could do a whole other podcast on this about your work in Kenya and eventually partnership with Cherish Watoto, and you started your own nonprofit organization to support this Christian school and orphanage out of the slums of Nairobi, and so with some of that stirring in your heart, you got then connected with World Vision.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how does a pastor know it's time to retire?
Especially, how do you leave a sticky church?
Yeah. So both Gary and I were the exact same age.
All right.
Birth year. And so we decided when we were 60 to try to do the best that we could, that by the time we hit 65, that we were making the church helping it to get to the right place. Obviously, God does all that making of those moments, but try to get to the right place where we could know that we were passing the baton well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we met. We met with people. We talked to people. We met even with the church at large, and they were on board. And so as we got to 65, we both started to realize, well, it's getting close. Let's not go too long. There's nothing worse than a quarterback in the NFL who plays too long,
right,
or a pitcher for Major League Baseball. Right. I know, Tara Beth, you love sports analogies, but there's nothing worse than that. And the people on the sidelines are going, stop, retire already. And we never wanted to get to that place. Right. So we end up together putting this plan in place. We didn't really know where it was heading, but then as I turned 65, I had an opportunity that surfaced, and I prayed long and hard with my wife about it, and I thought I'd talk to people at church about it, and finally we realized it was God saying now.
So you then went to World Vision at that point?
Yeah, 2018, I officially retired, and Gary stayed on, and the church put a call team together to look for the next senior leader. And he would kind of be a bridge.
But they weren't looking for co-pastors at this point.
No, single.
So you left first.
Yes.
And Gary stayed.
Yeah. And, it made sense to us that he was more the relational, pastoral moment, that he would care for the church a lot, in its time where it was saying goodbye in just a genuine way, which he did. And I had this opportunity that surfaced. I had begun to have a relationship with World Vision as the pastor when I was at Good Shepherd, going to Kenya with them, going to Uganda with them, running marathons with them, Chicago Marathon, and raising money for clean water. And had an opportunity then to connect with what was known as their church team. And I had known some of the people on that team. And they said, we hear that you're thinking of moving to the Southwest, which we were. We have 2 sons in California and a daughter here in Chicago. Okay. And so we thought, get out of town for a while. We'll get out of the way of Good Shepherd and the next senior leader, and you won't marginalize the pastoral leadership with everybody coming to you all the time. Right. And going to Phoenix for 5 years was fun. It was.
So you were in Phoenix when you worked for World Vision?
Yeah. Okay. I had a territory in the greater Southwest. It was huge. Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. Yeah.
All right. So then they called a new pastor.
Yes.
Pastor Gary left.
Yes.
And they called a new pastor.
And COVID hit. Right as the new pastor began.
Oh, poor guy.
And it didn't work.
No, it was a very short run.
Okay.
And it was another one of those moments for Good Shepherd that, attendance plummeted. Even coming out of COVID, people, like a lot of people left the church.
COVID was sufficient for that.
Yeah.
Well, right? And then even
but when you have
over the short pastorate.
I remember being in Arizona as COVID hit and saying to my wife one morning, wow, I'm glad I'm not a senior leader right now.
Okay, yeah. But before we go to what happened next, how do you relinquish control of a church you've pastored for 2 decades?
Especially when you're watching it go through what it was going through.
And I did not really know what it was going through. We had isolated ourselves intentionally.
Right.
But leaving, I think it's an emotional journey that was not easy.
Yeah.
I did have a wonderful opportunity, which was crazy exciting.
Right. World Vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Working with people
Right.
in a different phase of a place that God had put on my heart to burn, to care for people globally.
Right.
And yet, Naperville had become my home.
Right.
All my kids had gone to school there and graduated from high school there, and now we're on their way. But it was not easy. I got to be real honest. It was a very difficult time, bittersweet, but there was still the promise of what's next.
Sure, I get that, but we ought not to underestimate or minimize how painful it can be to leave a church you have loved.
Correct.
I mean, that's wilderness wandering.
And I went cold turkey. I
Yeah,
basically
sure
said, I'm not going to be in touch intentionally. We kept connections with people that we knew, but we didn't ever talk about what was happening at church.
Right. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So, and for me, I was, as all that was happening, I'm moving back to Chicagoland from Pasadena. And, of course, like we ended up picking up, back up our friendships with a lot of the people at Good Shepherd.
Good Shepherd, sure.
Because where we lived.
Yep.
However, I was on staff at Christ Church.
And Good Shepherd wasn't an option for you at that time, evidently.
No. And even I remember when after the senior pastor left, and they actually had like 4 major staff resignations happen at once. 3 other pastors quit.
You're talking about just recently, a couple years ago.
Yeah, when the senior pastor,
the successor to you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You finally moved on.
Right. Go ahead.
The staff then
there was
started to crumble.
Mass exodus of staff, mass exodus of people. And I remember I was, very good friends with some of the people still on staff, and, they're pastorless. I mean, they're not pastor. I mean, they were still being cared for by a very good staff, but things were hard. I remember thinking, I pity the next pastor.
I love it.
I remember thinking, like, whoever goes to that church is nuts.
Got a mess to clean up.
What a mess.
So you heard it here. Tara Beth Leach is nuts.
Yes.
That's what we heard.
Well, I just thought this place is nose diving. They are tanking. There were some town hall meetings where it was just
I heard
tough.
That's when I started to hear a little bit more about what was happening, and my heart bled.
Crazy contentious.
Yeah. As Tara Beth said, Good Shepherd's a special place. It's her greenhouse. I always call Good Shepherd sacred ground. There's something special about it. And when I began then to understand what was happening at church, it was like killing me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't stop loving a church because you leave it.
And you also put yourself, let's be real honest, you put yourself into the microscope of life, the crucible, and you say, what did I not listen to? What did I not do proper in the journey that I could have? And we all do that, right?
Yeah. It's a parent with a child.
But the reality is it's in God's hands. We did what God wanted.
Right.
And there's pruning that takes place sometimes in church land. And there's also the walking through the desert to get to the promised land moment. And the good news is Good Shepherd's in the promised land right now with Tara Beth Leach as the senior leader.
Okay, but wait, let's go back. So you're thinking that church is tanking. Somebody's had to be nuts to take the church.
Somebody would have to be nuts, which is why, when they reached out to me, I said no.
I even said, Tara Beth, and you probably do know this, to our good friends, the Rubens, I said, what about Tara Beth? And Janice said, we talked to Tara Beth and probably not an option.
Yeah, I had declined because I was so afraid. I wasn't sure if it was a glass cliff situation. So glass cliff is a psychological phenomenon when an organization, a corporation, or a church
right.
is in trouble, and they say, oh, we need to do something really different.
Radically different.
Radically different. And what they do is they hire a female
Right.
CEO or a female pastor in this case, or a person of color.
Right.
And they called it a glass cliff because it was already nosediving and it wasn't turning around. And so then the blame ends up either on the female or the
Right.
person of color. And
Right.
I was not sure if Good Shepherd was reaching out to me because this was a glass cliff situation.
Yeah, they're desperate. We need radical change. Tara Beth will come, right? And she'll rescue us.
Correct.
But you may take a church that can't be rescued. That's the point. That's the glass cliff.
That's the glass
nothing
cliff.
you can do
Yes.
would stop the trajectory.
Yeah.
But, okay, before you go on,
Yep.
you're also having to contend with the recent experience at Paznaz.
Mm-hmm. It had been 2 years, but I was still healing.
And you're thinking, do I really want to do this again?
Mm-hmm. I was very much thinking, and then the answer was no, I don't want to do this again.
Correct.
The answer was no. Thank you very much. I love you, Good Shepherd.
Right.
Meanwhile, there was a person on staff, Ryan, who still, him and his wife are behind the scenes praying that, man, God can change Pharaoh's heart. God can change Tara Beth's heart.
Oh, wow. Going over your head, was it?
And so they invite me to guest preach. So Ryan, at the time, he's like holding the church together, like in ministry, because, and he's trying to get preachers in. And he's like, little did I know he was scheming. He invites me to preach.
And I watched that live stream out in Phoenix.
Wow.
I never.
Yeah.
So the pretense is, we need a preacher, Tara Beth.
We need a preacher.
Would you just come and preach one time?
We need a preacher. Just come and preach one time. And he's like, and we're going to put our best foot forward when she's here and make her fall in love with us. And that's exactly what happened. I go to preach, and as soon as it's just immediate. I was like, I'm home. I'm home. And I looked out at that congregation, and I've often talked about how I view pastoring through the lens of mothering, not because I'm a female, but because of my lived experiences. I am a mom. And I remember looking out at them thinking, they need a mom right now. That's what they need. And there had been a bunch of crazy other, I threw out my fleece. I tell you what, I threw out that fleece before God. And there were so many moments where God was so abundantly clear. We're talking burning bush moments. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to talk to. So who did I call?
Whoa.
I called Pastor Greg.
There's no way that. Yeah, so who do you call? Because he's going to give you an objective counsel.
He knows Good Shepherd.
And
he knows the
you.
denomination. He knows me. He knows what I'm getting into. So you're in Arizona, and actually, I think you were in California at the time visiting your son, because it was Christmas when you and I hopped on Zoom. It was Christmas, and I get on Zoom, and I said, Pastor Greg, I think I'm supposed to be the pastor at Good Shepherd. Am I crazy? And you spent a lot of time with me, and you really actually from that moment kind of started to champion that process with me. Yeah. And on that call, you're like, oh, by the way, and it was just like you were just sharing. You're like, yeah, because we were catching up. Yep. You're in Phoenix. How's that going? Oh, you're visiting your son in California right now. And oh, Hallie has had a child. Oh, that's amazing. Hallie lives in Naperville. And you said, and we're moving back. We're coming back to Naperville in April. And as soon as you told me that, I was like, I'm bringing him back. Like in my brain, I knew in that moment, the Holy Spirit had planted such a certainty in my heart that you were actually coming back to Naperville for me.
Wait a minute. So you hadn't accepted the call to the church yet?
No.
And
but I knew
it was moving though.
Why were you? It was moving in that direction?
Tara Beth had asked, would I spend some time with her just talking through what she might experience denominationally, even within the polity of what I knew Good Shepherd's fiber to be.
Because it was impossible. What Good Shepherd was trying to do and call me to be their pastor was absolutely impossible in the eyes of the denomination.
Right. You had to kick against the leadership to do this.
Exactly.
Rebel. Which, it's so in the DNA of Good Shepherd.
Were you coming back anyway?
Yes.
Oh, you're just coming back
He
anyway.
was just moving back.
After 5 years.
You'd given him enough time.
Yeah, the desert's okay. It's great.
Yeah, there's no
I
water
had done
there.
my work with World Vision. I'd worked with the church outside of Tucson, helping them get healthy. And we had our first grandchild. And having your first grandchild is a big deal when you're 69, 70 years old.
Right.
So you want to spend time with that child. And that's what we did. We were ready and moving back. And along the way, as Tara Beth lifted that up, we started to realize, because on my heart was the Holy Spirit saying, Tara Beth has to be the next senior leader at Good Shepherd. I believe that even before we connected with each other. So obviously God's doing multiple things on different levels with the same goal and outcome.
You planted that in my heart in my 20s. You said, I think you might be the next senior pastor here.
Yeah.
And wow.
So you're
a prophet.
So you haven't said yes.
Yeah.
He says he's coming back. You said yes when you said he's going to be a good shepherd with me.
Yeah. Well, so at that time I was discerning.
How do you say he's going to be a good shepherd with me without saying yes that you're?
I know I hadn't, but I guess at that point I knew that I was going to go. I knew that God was calling me. I fought it. Boy, did I fight it.
That's what we do.
Yeah, I fought it because I was so afraid. But I knew
you had reason to fight it.
As soon as Greg said we're moving back, and they were already in the plans, like your place was under construction at the time.
Right.
It was the very definition of holy mischief. At that moment, I knew that the Lord was doing something very unique.
Is that what you said? Holy mischief.
Holy mischief.
Yeah, the Lord's messing.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Lord is messing, and so, man, and.
But right away, it was important for Tara Beth to have her time with the church.
Right.
Without a former senior leader hanging around.
Yeah.
Correct.
So a few months passed, and it was intense for her in the beginning, obviously, coming in. Very welcoming. The church loves on its pastors.
Okay.
They were very welcoming. And I it was intense in that, so you shared like the congregation, like, were they looking for, I was so afraid they were looking for a savior.
Yeah. Right.
And for me, it was, I wasn't going in there to turn the church around. I was going in there with fear and trembling because I knew that God had called me. And so I kept trying to temper things for the church. Like, I can't tell you how many times I said to them, you're going to be mad at me in 6 months about something I did. It's only a matter of time before I disappoint you or before I upset you. Like, our future is up to God. And it's not going to be me that's going to turn this around. It's going to be what God does. And I kept trying to temper the congregation because I knew they were looking at me like, I mean, they were so excited.
They're
and that
excited.
Scared me. That scared me.
It should scare us, right? Because what I would tell my students is, don't be a Messiah unless you want to be crucified. Because that was what will happen to you.
True.
If you think you're the Messiah, it is going to cost you.
True.
So the church's excitement about me coming was so scary for me.
Yeah.
Even though I knew I
was wisdom.
And I was excited and it was coming home and I was so scared.
All at once.
And so goodness, we thought this was going to be 2 episodes. I think we're going to have to. We have so much. We're at 30 minutes.
Well, I know, but we don't even know how it is that you invited. I mean, we know you thought.
I think we're going to have to leave folks with another cliffhanger.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Let's do 30 more minutes. This is fun.
Yeah.
Let's
folks.
Wait. We should probably ask our guest.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Okay.
You're in? Okay.
All right.
But friends, you're going to have to wait to find out how we did this. How in the world did this conversation that you and I had in December of 2021?
Yeah.
Was that December of 21 or 22?
22.
December of 22. How did a conversation in December of 2022 turn out to this?
Can I say, did Greg telling you that they were planning on moving back, regardless whether or not you took the church or not?
Yeah.
How did that impact your decision to take the church?
I don't know. Because at that point, like, I did just have so much clarity
That you were supposed to.
Yeah, and I had a great peace that Greg was coming back. That was helpful for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew he didn't, I didn't on that call, I said nothing to you about coming back. It's like kind of like how Mary kind of tucked that into her heart. Like I tucked that into my heart.
But that had to be kind of a sign. The Lord is with you.
Yeah. Yeah. There were so many of those.
Yeah.
There were so many. Yeah. God gave me so many signs. I felt like I was in kind of just this almost like New Testament era, like so many crazy signs.
Because Greg's influence on this church was still great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I left positively, yeah.
Well, and it's only been 5 years, right?
Correct.
And the church hadn't done so well in 5 years.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of folk at that church going, man, I wish Pastor Greg was still here. So your speaking into Tara Beth as the pastor was no little thing for Tara Beth. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, we got to keep talking.
Yeah, so folks are going to have to wait until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Encounter Faith podcast. This podcast is a service of G. Shep Productions from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Naperville, Illinois. All rights reserved. If you're in the area, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning at our 9 a.m. or 10:45 services. At Good Shepherd, we are inviting everyone to walk together in the calling of Christ for a life of eternal impact. This podcast is produced and hosted by me, Ross Cochran, and our theme song is Wake the Earth by 1111 Worship. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again soon.